Ms. Van Amber?
The only item I have is the next item on your agenda, which is the ordinance for short-term short-term rental licenses.
Well, while you're up,
So, on your agenda tonight for first reading is Ordinance 680, which is intended to address a couple of things. The initial intent of the ordinance is to address short-term rentals, which is what we refer to them, but it really came up with things like Airbnb, Easton Shore vacation rentals, and some of the property rentals that were for shorter periods of time than someone that's living there as their primary residence. This is like renting a house or a room or a part of a dwelling for a shorter period of time. So the ordinance defines that as 4 months or less, and that was modeled after what Talbot County did, which is what I think my instructions were from you all when we had the workshop about this, was to pull in some of what Talbot County was doing. So it's 4 months or less, and it makes it clear that a license is required if you're conducting rentals on that basis. There are some additional provisions for short-term rentals, which require someone to be basically on call for complaints 24 hours a day. And that person has to either live in Talbot County, or they have to name an agent that lives in Talbot County in order to make someone accessible if there are issues. And it requires notification to property owners that live within 400 feet of the property. And so those were some additional provisions that were put in for short-term rentals. Talbot County does have some additional provisions that I did not include, but certainly can if you want to. And that is they give the ability to deny or to revoke a license if there are nuisance issues or lots of complaints involving the property. And in order to deny a license, you need to have some kind of due process built in. So they have a mediation board, as well as a hearing procedure and mechanism within their ordinance in case those situations arise. We can add that to this. I didn't know if you want that much process and procedure at this point, since this is very new to us, but certainly we can add it if you want. We wanted to make it clear it's not required for. And so there are exceptions for things like hotels and motels and assisted living facilities and bed and breakfasts and things that are more commercial in nature. So there's an exception that's built in for that. And then there were some other cleanup issues. Instead of building department code official, that's in there as well. And then finally, there's been some question about whether a license is needed for if a family member is renting a property. And so we were trying to address that issue. Don was not in Friday when I finished up the final draft. And so he, I think, has some additional changes from what you have, but they're minor and they're related more, not to the short-term rentals, but more to this family issue and when it's required in those situations. So we may have some additional changes for you by the time you look at this again. Okay.
Do we have any provisions for the collection of accommodation taxes on these properties?
That is already in Talbot County Code, and
Right.
so it already applies.
Okay.
So I didn't feel the need to restate it. We could add that, but it's not something that we're enforcing. It's a Talbot County accommodations tax. So that's why they already have it. It already applies by virtue of their code. I'm not sure if we say it or not say it, it has any
Should we
effect.
have a discussion with them to see, if they understand that the assumption is that they will enforce that, and we have to share information with them for them to do that?
And we could certainly have that.
Sharing information like who are our licensees.
Correct.
Right.
I sit on the tourism board, and recently the legislature overturned the governor's veto of accommodation taxes for some of these companies that bought bulk rooms and said they didn't have to pay. And so,
Right.
I mean, it's an issue that's been a statewide issue.
Okay.
so we'll have a public hearing on this ordinance 680, at our next meeting at 7:15.
I've read the 680. The only thing I have a problem with is the family. This definition. I think my opinion, we're going a little too far with that. because we've got a wonderful rental program that's designed to address glaring safety and health issues. By what I'm reading there, I don't see how we expand to the family situations and the description of the definition there. I think we're going a little too far with that. I'll wait till we get the next round of comments, but I'm pretty uncomfortable with that.
Too far which direction?
I don't think we need to be I think we've expanded the scope of the rental program too far with the 14.2 and 14.3.
So currently what happens is the issue has come up and people have gotten notices and they say, oh, this is a rental to family. And you're saying that, and this is trying to clarify that they don't need to pay a fee when that's involved. Are you saying that's too far and we should require more of them?
Well, when you start talking license, and that means they have to get inspected, and that's another $100 every 2 years. Right now, with what I've seen, I'm not very comfortable with that.
So you think the family should be more exempt?
I think no, I don't think. I think the family situation is not something that's really applicable to the rental program. In your memo, you indicated there are situations that occurred. I'd like to see those if I could, but I mean, at this point, I'm uncomfortable with it.
Well, and if I can try and understand what you're saying a little bit better as well, Ron. Currently, the 14-14.2 is an exemption that allows a room to be let, if that's the proper term, to a family member without a license fee, but a license that's required. So what you're suggesting is, I think what Sharon said is the exemption doesn't go far enough. It shouldn't even be in here at all. You have to identify something in this regulation that exempts a family.
I go along with the exemption. I just don't know why we have to have a license.
Okay.
As far as I think that's a little too far. I'm not locked. That's my gut feeling looking at it and the way in reading what I read. I fully recognize you said you've got more stuff coming in, and that's where I am at the moment.
Okay.
So I think what Don's thinking is that he doesn't know sometimes, and when they send a letter, they just know it's not owner-occupied and someone else is living there. So when they send that out, he wants some mechanism where people give something in writing that says this is my niece or nephew and it shouldn't apply, some documentation to support that they wouldn't apply. And that's why I think... No,
and certainly I don't want to give us a system where we're hamstringing him either. The issue of the license is sort of I'm not comfortable with.
Well, we'll wait for the revisions that Don has, and we'll still schedule the public hearing for our next meeting at 7:15. But we're not under any kind of deadline on this, so if we need to take a little more time with it, that's fine.